up, guys? Souter the Savage back, and instead of a predictions video or a random sports video, today I am back with Souter Stories. I know it's been a while, and I really wasn't sure what to talk about, but something that I did recently did make me realize I wanted to talk about this. I'm going to be telling you guys about the time I climbed the CN Tower. Now, I know that sounds crazy, one of the tallest buildings in the world, and I actually climbed it. There was a lot that went into it, so I'll be talking about what happened before the event, what happened during the event, and what happened after the event. So without further ado, let's get to what happened before. So of course we're going to start out with what happened before the event, how I found out about it, all that. So anyways, let's get this started. So how it all went was, it was probably early September, beginning of the school year. So I was just at the end of my math class. I'm just kind of looking through my phone. I'm on Instagram, and my friend Ryan, he ends up posting on a story. He was actually shouting out a club at my school that was the CN Tower climb. And so I looked at it, and I was pretty interested. So I showed it to my friend Justin, and I didn't say, like, would you want to do this? He kind of looked at it, and he looked at me thinking, you want to do this? And then I thought, let's do it. And I thought about showing it to my friend Ethan as well. So I show it to him, and I tell him that Justin and I are thinking about climbing, and then he looks, he's like, you know what, let's do it. So we all agreed that Ethan, Justin, and I, we would all join the CN Tower climb. So we get there, we get to our very first meeting, which happened a few days after, and they were basically talking about the event, and the CN Tower climb, we were actually with a charity called United Way, and because this was a charity event, we needed to raise $60 in order to climb. And we had to also pay like a $10 entrance fee, but that's the way you could actually get your CN Tower Climb t-shirts. So yeah, $60, and we had maybe about a month to raise it just before the climb. So for me, I do things a lot of the time at the last minute, which I'm not proud of. But fortunately, I was able to get enough money. I was able to raise enough money to climb the CN Tower. I went through my family. They were all willing to make donations. Now, my actual plan was I was going to use 3 members of my family, see if I could get 20 each. But, of course, they all did that, except my grandmother, who is super, super generous, decided that she would put $50 on my name. So, thank you. And she also referenced a bunch of other people that she think would be willing to donate, which are other members of my family who I don't have, I don't have their contacts. I don't have their numbers. So when I was doing like my whole session where I was asking for donations, just to make it easier for them, I decided I would pull up the website and I would make donations under their name for them, because the people that I was asking were a lot older and not as good with technology as I am. So during that whole time, I literally looked like I was in tech support, because I was just typing like, okay, what's your credit card number? What's your expiry date? CVV? How much are you willing to donate? What's your address? What's your email address? Like, seriously, it looked so sketchy. But my whole family were super generous for donating. Any of you guys who are watching this, thank you so much for helping me out in climbing the CN Tower. So when it came to training, I didn't really train, but I did do one kind of practice, which I had done recently with my friend Ryan. So Ryan and I, we're best friends. He's my best friend. We would go out all the time. Usually when we would come home to my home station, the station that's closest to our houses, we had like this huge staircase and an escalator that led to one of the exits. So Ryan always had this challenge where he would race me up to the top. Most of the time he would beat me. I did beat him. I have beat him a couple times, because basically I just started like practicing, getting ready to face him again. And then I realized, if I'm going to be climbing the CN Tower, this wouldn't be that bad, because I counted, there was about 90 stairs, and the CN Tower has 1,776 stairs. So I did the calculations. That's probably about 5% of the climb. So that was kind of like my main way of practice. So Ryan, thank you so much for always racing me up there, because you got me my main way of training. And now we're going to be moving on to our next segment. So now I'm going to be talking about what happened the day of the event. So the day of the event, I actually woke up at probably just about 5 o'clock, because I had to be at the Toronto Metro Convention Center at 6:45 so we could do all of registration, make sure that everyone's there. And it was just basically like a cushion time, because the climb actually happened at 7:30. So, got up at 5. I met up with my friends at around 6. And, it was really weird just walking to the subway station because it was 6 a.m. in the morning. No one's outside. Most of the people that I would expect to be outside are just kind of like very, very sketchy people. Fortunately, we didn't encounter anyone. We did see one guy that was just jogging out for an early morning jog. We got to our station, but we also left at 6 because in the TTC, in the area that we are in, the train doesn't run as consistently in the morning on a weekend as it does, say, a weekday in the morning or during rush hour. So we wanted to make sure that we had enough time to catch a train and head down. Fortunately, we actually caught the first train that got there. We rode down to Union, and basically, they needed me. Ethan and Justin needed me to get them to the convention center because they didn't know where to go. None of our parents wanted to be associated with this. They didn't want to have to take us. They didn't want to have to take time out of their mornings just so they could take us to the CN Tower where we would climb and just they wouldn't do anything. So, yeah. Basically, we went through Skywalk, which is basically a way to get from Union Station to Metro Convention Center, CN Tower, and Rogers Center using just a walkway, not having to go outside. So we went through Skywalk. We actually got up to the convention center, and we met up with a ton of people at our school. And basically, when we got there, we had to register with our school and basically say our name, and we were given an envelope which had a wristband in it. Now, the wristband, the reason that we had that, it was actually our timer. So what we would do is that we would tap it. We would actually tap it when we would run, before we would climb it, and then we would tap it right after we finished climbing. So eventually everyone got their wristbands. We all went up. We didn't go to the CN Tower. We went to the top level of the Metro Convention Center. And we were told that we were not allowed to have our phones or water going up the tower. Now, I didn't like that. I didn't like that rule because, I mean, I understand phones. They don't want people just on their phones. But the reason why I wanted to have my phone at the top is because I wanted to take pictures. I was not allowed to take any pictures. And so I was also told, and of course, no water. So it's 144 flights of stairs, and I wanted to have some water just so I could have a little bit of a drink so I could rehydrate and keep going. The fact that there was no water allowed just did not make me happy. So we had to give away our bags, all our coats and that, and we were given a ticket, which was basically we would give it to them and they would give us our stuff back. Now the thing was, it wasn't like a sticker, it was just like a regular like strip of paper. So one of the weirdest things is just like, what do we do with it? Like, I didn't really want to, do I have to carry it in my palm? Do I keep it in my pocket? Because the shorts, I was wearing shorts for that, and they were just like a pair of basketball shorts. They do have pockets, but they're not like very good because if I like run fast enough, things could fall out, and with a piece of paper, I could lose it and not even know. But one of the people there said, just put it in your sock. And I realized that's a good idea. So eventually, the time was 7:30, and we walked to the CN Tower. Now, we actually need to walk outside of the convention center, walk over the John Street Bridge, down the stairs, and right to the CN Tower. Now, the John Street Bridge, this was just a burst of nostalgia because this is the way that I come to many Blue Jays games because I sit in the 200 section. The station I usually get off at, it's more convenient to go down the John Street Bridge and go in one of the gates there. So I just had this burst of nostalgia. All that I could think about was the 2016 AL wildcard game. Just because most of the time when I go to these games, it's still very light outside. It's still sunny outside. It's still day. It's not like night has fallen, but it was super dark when I was walking, and when I went to the wildcard game, when I was waiting, it was just super dark. So that was kind of the first thing I thought about. We get into the CN Tower, had to go through security, followed a bunch of people, and then eventually there came the station where you scan your wristbands. And then the climb had started. So Ethan, Justin, and I, we all agreed that we would try to climb it all together as much as possible. So the thing was, I don't exactly have the greatest endurance, so about 10 to 12 flights in, I was already starting to feel it in my legs. But, I kept fighting. We just kept running up the stairs. I kept asking, how you guys feeling? Is it kicking to you yet? It got to Justin pretty early. It didn't really get to Ethan. We kept going. We all, like I said, because we tried to do it together, we tried to always stop together. So I said, let's go for 72. Make it our first stop because 72 is basically the halfway point of the CN Tower climb. But unfortunately for Justin, his endurance wasn't as good as Ethan and I's. So he ended up stopping at floor 50 or 60. I don't remember what, but he was around that area. And as I was running up, there was a lot of people that were resting at the side because they were pretty tired. I saw a ton of paramedics, even saw people throwing up. Most of the people that were throwing up, what I saw is that they were actually throwing up into a mask. Basically, it was like an oxygen mask with a hole at the other end, and attached to that hole was just like a little plastic bag that they were just throwing up into. Kind of grossed me out, but that just didn't matter. So I get to 72, and I am already burned out because it's quite a climb up. So eventually we keep going, and Ethan and I agree to stop at 100 to basically signify maybe like a final stretch or say that we made it up 100 flights of stairs. So we stop at about 100, and we decide to keep going. And then we thought stop at 122, maybe just so we can do the final stretch. But Ethan stopped a little bit earlier. I think he stopped at about 115. I said I'm going to stop at like 122, and then I'm going to finish it. But then, as I kept running, I realized I wasn't as tired as I thought I was, and I decided I'm going to finish this. I felt bad that I kind of left them behind, but at this point, I was just so determined to finish it. And then eventually, as I got further up the stairs got a lot more slippery. Now, you might be wondering why there's no water, but it was actually because the sweat. People were just sweating. There were so many people that climbed up the stairs. They were getting more and more sweaty at the top, and there was just drips. There was just sweat all over the ground. Made the stairs a little bit more slippery. Now, for me, when it comes to sweat, it takes me a while. When I'm doing a lot of like hard work, say like running or climbing upstairs, it takes a while for me to break a sweat, but eventually I would break a sweat and I would make it to the top. And eventually, at the top, we would scan in our wristbands. And I thought that was done. But, oh no! We had a few more flights of stairs to climb, but it didn't matter. It was just like a nice, easy walk. As I got to the top, there was people applauding, saying, congratulations, you did it. And at that moment, all I felt was triumph. And as soon as I got up there, they had a ton of water, so I put down as many cups of water as I could because my throat was parched. I needed water because I was just so tired. So now, after the climb, eventually my friends, they did make it up to the top. We all kind of talked a little bit, just say, what do we do now? Eventually, we would ride the elevator down, and it was kind of cool, kind of looking at Toronto, but the view was kind of weird because it was just like a cloudy morning. It still wasn't fully light outside, but it was really cool just going down the CN Tower of the elevator because I just realized, as I was going down, I just couldn't stop thinking that I just did this. I climbed this high. I still couldn't believe it. So eventually we get down, and basically when we were walking back to the Metro Convention Center, we were actually given some more food. We were actually given a granola bar and a banana. I only ate the granola bar because I do not like bananas. Yeah. So we get down, and we basically give them our wristband. There was like a section where you could scan your wristband again and see the time that you climbed. So the time I ended up getting was 18 minutes and 21 seconds. Now, the average climb time, people said, was about half an hour, so I was shocked that I actually beat that. My goal was to at least beat the average. Any more than that, probably not. Maybe, like, I tried to go for under 20 minutes as well, which I did achieve, which was very nice. But there was one guy at my school who got 13 minutes and 41 seconds. Now, he was a tiny guy. So it just shocked me that he did it that fast, but apparently he does like a lot of these kinds of events, so it makes sense. He's done the climb before. That was my first time doing it. So basically, after you got the time, they would write it on like a little sheet of paper, and then you would actually go over and get your t-shirt. And this is what it looked like. It was, I'm climbing for UP, for Local Love, and on the back, you got your time. And I ended up beating Ethan and Justin to the top. Ethan, I beat him. He ended up getting 20 minutes, and Justin ended up getting 22 minutes. Now, the reason Ethan said he got 20 minutes, he was aiming to get under, but the main reason was because he said, like, when I wasn't there, he was stuck behind, like, a kid and his father, and the father kept telling the kid just to try to move over so Ethan could pass, but unfortunately he wouldn't. And Justin, well, he took a couple more breaks than we did, but it's okay. He still made it. We all made it. And then we were just not sure what to do. So we decided to go home. And as we're riding back home, we're talking about what should we do. We thought about getting some breakfast. Like, we thought about Tim Hortons, but then all of a sudden, my friend Justin started talking about how much he loves steak and cheese subs. And then all of a sudden, we realized, let's just go to Subway. and we get back home. We get back to our home station. Go to Subway, and we all get steak and cheese subs. It was just kind of weird because we're sitting there, 9 a.m. eating steak and cheese subs after having just climbed the CN Tower. It was definitely kind of funny. Then eventually we all went home. I got home and I was just bushed. I went to my room and I went to bed. I went to sleep. I woke up a couple hours later and didn't really do too much for the rest of the day. But that is going to wrap up my video for today. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Man, I know I've gone a long time without Souter stories, but I'm glad I was able to tell this one. And also, I got my Saints hat back. I actually found it. If you may remember in the last video I said I may have lost it. Turns out it was in my parents' room. Not sure how it got there. I'm not sure if I remember why it's there. But anyways, I got it back. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, comment down below what other kind of stories you want to see or any other kind of videos you want to see. Make sure to follow me on Instagram and Snapchat at Souter the Savage. Thank you all for watching and have a great day. Peace